Hey everyone, another Bill Sky, the assembly guy, and today what we're going to do is we're going to look at x86-64 constants, and we're also going to look at ARM constants. We're going to look at the x86-64 on both Linux and Windows. Let's get started. So constants are a way to give a name to a value that will never change. You create and it's just like in C and C++ and any other language that has constants. It's not an actual variable. It's simply a label for a value. So let's go in, and I actually already created a couple of projects here. Let's do the x86-64 on Linux first, and let's create a couple of constants. Now there is a little bit difference between Windows and Linux and ARM. But we're going to look at all three of those. This is going to be not that long of a video, but it's going to include all three. So what I'm going to do is at the very top of my program, I'm going to create a constant. And the way that you do it is you just give it a label name. You just give it a constant name. My constant 1. EQU, and remember this is Linux. And we're going to say 22H, 22 hexadecimal. And just to make sure I've got the syntax correct, I build it, everything looks good. Now I'm going to go ahead and use that constant. Now, this is actually a very bad constant name because it's got lowercase letters in it. So the standard is you put your constants all in uppercase. The name of your constant must always be in uppercase. I could even create a character constant to have an ASCII value in it, a character in it. So you can put almost any kind of data you want in there. It's basically just going to be numeric or single letters like that. And the name of the constant should be in all uppercase. Underscores are good. You can't have spaces. It's the same rules as variables, except the industry standard is to use uppercase, and that's pretty much the same in just about any language. So let's go ahead and use that constant, or both of those constants. I'm just going to use, well, we might try both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into RAX. Now this is a 64-bit program. I'm going to move into RAX my constant 1. Let's try to move that into a smaller register. I'm going to move it into EAX. And let's try to move it into AL, the smallest of registers. Let's save and build. And it builds just fine. Now let's do a quick debug and see what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and put a breakpoint on my no-op and start the run. I'm going to go to registers down here, step over. Let's take a look at RAX. It has the value of 22 in it, which is what our constant value was. Now this should never change because now it's going to move 22 into EAX, which is the lower half. It's still the same. It's now going to move 22 into AL, which is the lower half. So kind of a lame demo, but it shows that you can put a constant into any sized register you want as long as that value will fit. Now, constants, like I said, they don't really have a size. They are simply a way for the assembler to say, everywhere where I see my constant 1, replace it with 22H. And I believe, and I hope it works with me here, I believe the listing file will even show, it's not showing you a B8 means move something thing to RAX. It shows B822. That means it literally took the number 22 and replaced my constant 1 with that number. So it's just like a preprocessor overlay, find and replace, global find and replace. Wherever you see my constant 1 in the text section, the code section, just replace it with a 22. Now, if this was a variable, a real variable, you would have an address for that variable there in that machine code. But you don't. You just have the number 22. And if I change that to 44, that would change to a 44. So again, another good example of why you might want to look at the listing file just to see the code that's being produced. All right, that's x86-64. Okay, so let's do this with ARM. Now, I went ahead, as I did with the x86, I went ahead and created a ARM 64-bit constant. Let's go ahead and edit that. And the way that you create a constant in ARM64 is you specify the .equ, the constant name, and then you define the value. And remember, it's always 0x for hexadecimal. And then what we do is we say move, and I'll just do this from scratch. We say move our register and then just the constant name. Let's save and build that. Let's go ahead and debug it. And we really don't have to go any further. We can just look at the actual code, and right here on this start plus 20, you can see move x0 hashtag 0x22. So really all the assembler did was every place where it saw my constant 1, it simply replaced that with equals 0x22. That's all it did. It did it for you. Now we can go ahead and step through this. Now it's going to go ahead and actually execute the next line of code and skip to the one after it, and you can see 22 and x0. I can put this into smaller registers. Let's put it into R1. Oh, not R1, W1. Do my constant 1 again. And again, constants do not have a size. They're just a global find and replace from the assembler. All right, so we're going to take a look at x0 first. x0 has 22. Now we're going to be looking at x1. It now has 22 in it as well. And you can see the assembler just generated the hashtag 0x22 wherever it saw that constant name. So that's ARM on our Linux. Let's now go look at Windows, a little bit different. All right, on Windows, Microsoft MASM, let's go ahead and create some constants. Again, I'm not going to worry about putting them in the data section or the text section or the code section. I'm going to actually put them just right above. So Windows is a lot like Linux x86, has a lot of the same syntax, except instead of EQU, you simply use the equal sign. So I'm going to just call this one my constant 1 equals 22H. And let's go ahead and put some code in there. I'm going to move into RAX. Now this is a 64-bit application. I'm going to just copy that into EAX and then into AL, and you'll see it builds exactly the same. Excellent. We can go ahead and debug it. Oh, I think I might have to put a breakpoint. Yep, I didn't put a breakpoint there. So I have to start this over this time with a breakpoint. And let's try it again. And we're going to be taking a look at the registers. So let's go up to Debug, Windows, Registers. There's our RAX. Let's step over. 22, step over, same as on the Linux. So constants are useful just like in C and C++ and all other languages. Make use of them. Hope to see you at the next video.